How come you're so quiet, Koi? Why don't you speak more? Speak up, Koi. We can't hear you. You've got to speak more. Use your voice. How come you're so quiet all the time? I remember in kindergarten, there was this one instance in which my mom was told by my teacher that I was too quiet. I was too quiet, man. When I went to class, I didn't say hello to anyone. I didn't even say hello to my teacher. I didn't even look at her. I don't want to look at her. And I have a good reason for why I didn't do that. You see, for some reason, maybe I was slow in developing. Maybe there was something in my childhood that prevented me from growing at the speed that is similar to my peers. I don't know. I can never know, man. There's so many factors. I am not a child specialist. I wouldn't know, and my parents wouldn't know. My parents wouldn't even think of it. Now I know this because I am working within the healthcare field, and there are things on the internet that you can learn about child development and stuff. But back then, back in the old days, and especially in a country like Vietnam, being too quiet is frowned upon. Being too quiet is an issue because we are social people. We like to mingle with each other. We have these extravagant dinner in which everybody sits around the table, everybody's talking. Yep. My parents, my family is like that. They like talking. My mom has a motor mouth. She wouldn't stop talking. But me, I don't know, man. For some reason, I was so quiet as a child. One day, I remember this very lucidly. One day, my teacher in kindergarten threatened me. She said, if I don't open my mouth and if I don't say hello to her, she's gonna cut my tongue off. It's a very common expression in Vietnamese that if you cut your tongue off, you cannot speak anymore. And she was alluding to that superstition in which if you cut off one's tongue, you will lose your voice forever. And that's not true. Of course, you have the larynx. I'm not going to bore you with the scientific terminologies and biology here, but you know what I mean. Vietnamese people are very superstitious. They said that during the war, if your head was cut off from your body, you were decapitated, you would not make it out into the afterlife. Because when you're missing a body part, when you go into the afterlife, you will not be complete. And your soul will be left wandering on this realm forever. We call them Gohon, meaning wandering souls. Look it up. The American soldiers used to do this to our people. They would fly above the jungles and into the village, and they would play these mixtapes of, I don't know, audio that is of Vietnamese people moaning and screaming in the dark, sort of resembling wandering souls searching for their body parts in the jungle, in the village at nighttime. And this would lower our people's morale, make us tremble, make us fear for our life. It's more of a psychological warfare tactic in order to weaken our people. But anyways, I digress. Yeah, my kindergarten teacher used to threaten me because I was so quiet that, Koi, if you don't speak, if you don't say hello, if you don't say anything to anyone, I'm going to cut off your tongue. I told my mom about this, and she was shaken. And if I remember correctly, I still went to that kindergarten for a while before my parents moved me to a different location, closer to our home or whatever, and I got a better teacher. But still, I don't know, man. Growing up, I was always the quiet kid. Always. I was having this anxiety or fear that other people would judge me for what I have to say. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot on my mind. My mind is constantly running on all cylinders. I'm always thinking, analyzing, observing. There are multiple events in my life in which I was forced to not be so open anymore. I fear now that sometimes when I'm being too open, it's not going to be good for me. It's not going to be good. There are things in the world I want to talk about. There are things I want to say. I want to speak my mind. I want to share. I want to share, man. I do want to share. I don't want to keep secrets. I'm open like that. I read on the internet. Now, I've never had a formal diagnosis of autism, but it's very likely that I am on a spectrum. I have a little bit of autism. My psychiatrist did mention it to me, but I've never gotten a full diagnosis. And I'm not sure what would happen if I get a formal diagnosis as an adult. I don't want to know about it. Because most autism diagnosis happens when you're a little child. And I mean, growing up, if I have had that knowledge that I'm somewhat different, my life would have turned out differently. I wouldn't have so much of this resentment and difficulty accepting who I am. I always feel like I am off. I'm different. I can't quite fit in. But I don't want to jump the gun. Who knows what this diagnosis would do to me? So that's why I'm hesitant about getting a formal diagnosis. I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, I've always been the quiet kid. Not because I don't have anything to say. I do have a lot of things to say. But because of past events and the things that I have said to people, I now have to be conservative and hold my tongue. I cannot speak about everything. There are bad things in the world. There are terrible things. I've seen it with my own eyes, but I can't talk about it, man. I simply cannot talk about it. I just cannot, man. I cannot be political. I cannot voice my opinions. I just cannot. Because I know I will receive persecution and judgments, and I want to fit in, man. I don't know, man. It's been a long day. As always, if you're still watching, stay strong. God bless. I love you all. And I'll speak to you later. Peace.